Everyone who resided in the Philippines for a longer or shorter period of time saw things there that made them laugh, things they have never seen in their home country, things they consider really funny. I collected all the funny stories that expats told me and selected the best ones for the 11th episode of the Expat Files. My name is Paul and I hope you will find this video entertaining. An expat reported seeing a woman getting into a very heated argument with a tricycle driver, saying that he stole her cell phone. The very cell phone that she was using to take a picture of the driver and his tricycle's license plate number. Another time, while he was waiting at a stoplight, a street person, filthy dirty, came up to his car asking for a handout. The expat's wife asked him if he had change for 100 pesos, at which point he pulled a handful of neatly folded bills from his pocket. The expat drove off. Someone else says, I always laugh when I'm waiting at a print shop and see this person using the power lines to hang and dry as many clothes as they can. I'm really expecting them to be famous on the local news someday. However, the most funny things you can see on the road are the overloaded vehicles. A man says, this happened on Leyte not long ago. 2 motorcycles were connected side by side with a wooden board. 4 people were riding on each motorcycle and 3 were sitting on the board between the 2 motorcycles, which totaled 11 people being transported on this strange construction. I pulled off the road and went to the store for a soft drink to give them enough time to be way ahead of me when I hit the road again. But lo and behold, they stopped to tie the board seat more securely. I have truly seen it all here. Other strange things that were reported by various expats were a tricycle with about 6 people in it and a dog on top of the roof. A tricycle loaded down with a dozen or so sacks of rice. A tricycle with a full-grown male pig being taken to stud. 2 big live pigs tied on a motorcycle. 7 people on one 150cc motorcycle with a roof. An overloaded jeepney with as many passengers up on the roof as inside the car. Someone saw a 2-floor truck with cows and illustrated his experience with this picture. As a comment he added, better be on the 2nd floor. Another expat refers to himself when he says that nothing puts a smile on the faces of Filipinos like watching a 300-pound white man from Canada trying to squeeze himself into a tricycle. Yet another one testifies, a year or so before me and my Filipina got married, we went to visit her family in Mindanao. I took the father, 2 sisters, 2 brothers-in-law, and several nieces out for dinner. After our culinary cravings were satisfied, we took a tricycle back to the hotel. All of us in one tricycle. Thank goodness Filipinos are small people, because there were 10 of us, and we made it just fine. Going to the loo in the Philippines can be quite surprising if you are not familiar with the country and its habits. First of all, many of the toilet bowls are half the size of an average one. They can be compared with the toilets we have in the Western kindergarten. A big fat foreigner may have problems fitting all his equipment in there. On top of that, they neither have toilet seats nor are they equipped with a flush. An expat told me that the first time he saw that the toilet in his motel didn't have a seat, he thought that someone had stolen it and reported it to the receptionist. Another expat said that when going to the CR, or comfort room as it is called in the Philippines, he was asked, pee-pee or poo-poo? When he said, fart only, they replied, oh, you blow only but no success. Don't look for toilet paper, as locals use water to clean themselves with their hand, the left one. Filipinos have a clean hand, the right one, with which they eat, and a dirty hand, the left one, which they use to wipe their arse. In some places in the Philippines, you will still find those dwarf bowls in public toilets, but in bigger cities, public toilets have evolved towards full-size toilet bowls with seats, a flush, and all modern amenities. I remember how many years and a few mayors ago the city of Ormoc was proud of its new public toilet facilities underneath the stage of their main plaza, which were a massive improvement to the ones they had before. When Gaisano Riverside opened in Ormoc, I was glad to find that they too had proper public toilets. They had a seat, a flush, and were well maintained. One thing you couldn't find in those toilets was toilet paper. If they put a roll of toilet paper in each toilet, it would disappear after every second customer. But toilet paper was available, only you had to ask it to the toilet lady sitting at the entrance. She would then give you just enough paper to wipe a standard butt. One day I was at Gaisano when I urgently had to perform the last phase of my digestion. I went to the toilet and asked for toilet paper. No more toilet paper, sir. What? I panicked. Then how should I wipe my ass? The lady had the decency not to tell me to do it the Filipino way. Instead she said, you can go and buy toilet paper in the supermarket, sir. I hurried to the supermarket, asked the first sales lady I passed where I could find the toilet paper, then grabbed it and hurried to the cashier, pressing my buttocks together, expecting a volcanic eruption any time. As soon as I had paid, I broke all Olympic records, running to the toilet, straight past the toilet lady and into one of the booths. I sat down on the toilet even before I had properly closed the door and discharged myself with the speed of a torpedo. The bowl filled up with a smooth mush that looked like delicious choco paste, but smelled like disgusting pigsty. From then on, I never left my house without an emergency supply of toilet paper in one of the pockets of my cargo shorts. Years later, when I returned to the Philippines in 2017, I was glad I picked up that habit. You see, I was staying at the small motel in Baybay on the island of Leyte. One morning, I said to the receptionist, Madam, can you have someone bring toilet paper up to our room, please? Much to my surprise, she replied, Sorry, sir, no more toilet paper. I will send someone to the city this afternoon. So what would I have done in the meantime without an emergency supply in my pocket? In the Philippines, not all bowel movements happen behind closed doors. An expat reported witnessing a man relieving himself in front of the city hall. Also, it is quite common to see men urinating in the streets. Passers-by don't even look at them because it is an everyday thing. I laughed at the story of a man who said that when he first arrived in the Philippines, he was drinking beer and singing karaoke in a squatter area. I asked where I could pee, he says. They told me that everyone pees on the wall over there. As soon as I started, all the children ran over to see my white wiener. I thought I was going to get arrested. Well, I wouldn't worry too much about police interventions because another expat reported seeing a uniformed policeman answering the call of nature on a wall in the middle of a fiesta in Cebu. The average Filipina is shy. Women go swimming in shorts and t-shirts with a complete set of underwear underneath. When you go to swimming pools, you will see that signs saying "only allowed with proper swimwear" are systematically being ignored. If you do see a Filipina wearing a bikini, chances are that she has been influenced by the Western culture by either spending time in the West or having a Western partner. Yet, several expats reported people walking in the street stark naked. These are obviously people with a mental problem who have been left to their own. Someone saw a naked guy in Manila walking past a crowd while talking to himself. I myself saw a naked man in Cebu. He was holding a carton behind him to cover his butt while completely ignoring the fact that his privates were dangling in front of him. Another one saw a senile old woman walking down a busy street in Pasay City, completely naked. An expat saw a man walking all through town in his bird suit, even passing the police and young girls. Nobody cared. The young girls didn't even turn their heads, and the police didn't react. In the West, the police would take such a person to the station until they had been able to identify him. Then he would either be put in the custody of his family or taken to a psychiatric clinic. None of that in the Philippines. The guy is naked? His problem, not mine. Another expat says, "We had a crazy guy escape from a mental hospital and make it to our barangay. The dude's crotch was ripped in his pants. I kid you not, his ding-ding was hanging literally a foot between his legs. He would have made a horse jealous. They kept giving him pants, and he kept ripping the crotch out of them." Every white-skinned foreigner who has been spending time in the Philippines must be used to it by now. His parents may have named him Mike or Steve or David. When he's in the Philippines, his name is Joe. Filipinos consider all white men to be Americano, and all Americans are called Joe. I suppose that has something to do with G.I. Joe. Anyway, you can be French, German or Swedish. People passing by will shout at you, "Hey Joe!" You are supposed to say "Hi," rather than starting to explain that your name is actually Jean-François. An expat says, "I'm a big guy. I was walking through Robinson's Mall, and when I was passing a restaurant, the hostess out front said something to me, but I only heard 2 words. It really caught my attention." As we are nearing the end of this video, I would like to thank all expats who shared their stories with me, one more funny than the other. I also want to thank all my viewers for watching. I hope to have put a smile on your face and kindly invite you to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. I would also appreciate a thumbs up and look forward to your comments. Let's listen to one more funny story. This bloke says, while camping on Montague Island, I hope I pronounced that correctly, in the Balabag region of southern Palawan, with my girlfriend and her family, I took a solo stroll into town and tons of kids were hovering around me, calling me Joe. It was apparent that I was probably the only Westerner they had ever seen, and one of the boys said his father wanted to meet me. He offered tea and we chatted for about an hour. He introduced me to his wives and probably a dozen children and asked me if I wanted to marry one or even two of his daughters. I told him I was already engaged, to which he replied that if I convert to Islam, I can have more than one wife. Then came the realization that I was being interviewed for a potential son-in-law,